My name is Kyle. At 15, my sister fined me for stealing, cried to my parents, and got me thrown out of the house barefoot. My dad, Robert, shoved a trash bag of my clothes into my arms. His voice was ice. Don't come back until you admit what you did. They had no idea that a few weeks later, a careless confession would destroy everything. Before I tell you how my mother overheard the lie that broke our family, let me know where you're watching from. And hit that like button if you've ever been made to feel invisible. Growing up, my family had two sets of rules. One for my younger sister, Becca, and one for me. She was the golden child. I was the afterthought. It wasn't about money or neglect. Not in the traditional sense. It was about value. Her value was unconditional. Mine was always up for debate. I was the quiet one. The builder. I spent hours in my room. Not playing games, but teaching myself to code, taking apart old radios, learning how to produce music on a laptop that was 5 years out of date. I found my voice in the things I could create. Because in a house that loud, my actual voice was often lost. Becca, on the other hand, was a social butterfly. She could fail a class, and my dad would call it a learning experience. She could break my things, and my mom, Susan, would just say, "Don't be so hard on her. Kyle, you're the older brother. You've always been stronger." That was the family motto. Kyle is stronger, so Kyle can handle it. I remember one year, I won the district coding competition. I had built a simple app from scratch. I came home with a small trophy and a certificate. My dad glanced at it over the top of his newspaper. "That's good," he said, "but don't let it affect your math grade." He never asked to see the app. He never asked how it worked. That same week, Becca got a B- on an art project. A clay pot that was lopsided. That night, we all went out to her favorite restaurant to celebrate her artistic talent. I sat there, picking at my fries, watching them praise her for mediocrity, while my real achievement collected dust on my dresser. It wasn't jealousy I felt. Not really. It was a deep, aching loneliness. A feeling of being completely and utterly unseen. It took me years to understand what was really happening. In family psychology, the golden child scapegoat system isn't an expression of love. It's a control mechanism used by insecure parents. The golden child is placed in a gilded cage. They receive all the praise, but only as long as they follow expectations to the letter. The scapegoat, on the other hand, is sent to an emotional wasteland. They're blamed for all the family's differences, all its dysfunctions. But in that exile, a strange paradox occurs. They become free. Free from the burden of having to please. Ironically, the gilded cage is sometimes more suffocating than the wasteland, because the one in the cage never knows they have wings. The one in exile is forced to learn how to fly. My room was my wasteland, but it was also my kingdom. It was where I built worlds on my computer screen. Worlds where logic reigned and effort was rewarded. I poured all my energy into those skills. Saving every dollar I made from cutting lawns and fixing neighbors' computers, I was building an escape hatch. A future that didn't depend on their approval. I thought this was just how life was. Unfair. But survivable. I never imagined she would take it to the level she did that night. It started like any other Tuesday. I was in my room, headphones on, trying to mix a track on my old laptop and ignoring the homework I should have been doing. It was late. Probably past 11. The door flew open so hard it slammed against the wall. My father, Robert, and my mother, Susan, stormed in. My dad's face was flushed, the veins on his forehead visible. My mom's expression was a mixture of anger and disappointment. Behind them, my 13-year-old sister, Becca, was putting on an award-winning performance. Her face was buried in her hands, her shoulders shaking with fake sobs. "He stole it," she wailed, pointing a trembling finger directly at me. I saw him take it from Dad's wallet. My head snapped up. When I sat bolt upright, my heart starting to pound. I was completely confused. My dad was already on the warpath. He didn't ask a single question. He just started tearing my room apart, his eyes scanning like he was on some cheap detective show. He yanked drawers open, threw books off my shelves, then he strode over to my bed, grabbed my pillow, and lifted it. And there it was. A crumpled wad of bills, maybe $300 or $400, shoved carelessly underneath. My stomach dropped through the floor. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "I told you," Becca shrieked, her crocodile tears somehow looking even more convincing now. My brain couldn't even process it. I hadn't touched his wallet. I hadn't even been near it. But before I could form a single word of defense, my dad was in my face, his finger jabbing into my chest. "You embarrassed this family for the last damn time," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. "You think we didn't notice things missing before? You think we're stupid?" I jumped to my feet, my whole body shaking. "That isn't mine. She planted it. She's lying." My voice was thin. "Despérate. Why would I take money? I've been saving every penny I could. Ask Mrs. Novak next door. I just mowed her lawn." "Enough," he barked. A sound so loud, it felt like it rattled the glass in my window. "A liar and a thief. You've made this house a joke." I turned to my mother, pleading with my eyes for some kind of support, some flicker of belief. She wouldn't even look at me. She just stood by the door, wringing her hands, her silence a complete and total betrayal. Meanwhile, Becca stood behind them, her head bowed like a little saint. But I saw it, just for a second. A smirk, a tiny, triumphant flicker of joy on her lips, as my dad started ripping my belongings out of my closet, tossing them into a black trash bag as if I were some stray animal they were finally getting rid of. "Dad, please. It isn't true," I begged, my voice cracking. But it didn't matter. He grabbed my backpack from the corner, dumped its contents onto my bed, and started shoving random clothes into it. My mom started to say something. "A week, Robert. Maybe we should." But a single glare from my dad silenced her. Becca let out another loud sniffle. "I'm scared to even be in the same house with him," she whispered. "He gets so angry. What if he hurts me?" That cut deeper than anything. I spun toward her, my heart hammering against my ribs. "What are you talking about? I've never laid a hand on you." But the damage was done. My dad's jaw clenched. "That's it. Out. Now." They grabbed my arms, dragging me down the hallway, the trash bag in one hand, my backpack in the other. Becca trailed behind us. And as we passed her, she whispered, so low only I could hear, "I told you they'd believe me." When we got to the front door, my dad jerked it open. The night air hit me like a sheet of ice. I was still in sweatpants and a t-shirt, completely barefoot. He shoved me onto the porch so hard I stumbled and nearly fell down the steps. My sneakers were right by the door. And on pure instinct, I reached back and grabbed them just before he could slam it shut. "You don't come back here until you're ready to admit what you did and apologize to your sister," he said, his voice quiet now. "Definitive." "I didn't do anything," I yelled, my throat raw. "She's lying to you. She set me up. Don't you dare talk about her like that." My dad snarled. "She's been nothing but good to this family. You're just jealous, Kyle. Jealous and bitter." The door slammed shut. The force of it shook the glass panes in the frame. For a full minute, I just stood there. The trash bag dropped from my numb fingers. I waited for the door to swing open again, for them to realize what they had just done, that they'd kicked out their own son over a few fake tears and some planted cash. It never opened. I sank down onto the porch steps, shivering, and looked out at our quiet, peaceful street. I wasn't grounded. I wasn't just in trouble. I was out. Exiled. I was 15 years old, sitting outside my own house with nothing but a trash bag of clothes and a half-empty backpack. I knew, in that moment, my sister had won. She had their trust, their love, their unwavering loyalty. And I was disposable. The first few nights were a blur of cold and confusion. My best friend, Lindsay, took me in without a second thought. Her mom let me stay for a couple of nights, but her face was tight with worry. "Kyle, I can't afford another mouth to feed," she told me quietly on the third morning. "You'll have to figure something out." I nodded, pretending I understood, pretending I had a plan. I didn't. That began the humiliating tour of my social circle. A night on a classmate's couch, 2 nights in another friend's basement, but nobody wanted to get involved in my family's drama. The welcome always wore out in less than 48 hours. Soon, I was out of options. That's when I started sleeping wherever I could. Behind the 24-hour gas station, there was a little nook near the dumpsters where the security light didn't reach. It smelled awful, but it was hidden. I'd do my homework at the public library until they closed, then walk to the gas station. I tried the school bathroom once, locking myself in a stall. But someone reported the bag under the door, and the janitor kicked me out. Word got around fast. Hunger was a constant. gnawing ache in my stomach. The $40 I had saved from mowing lawns disappeared in a few days on greasy dollar menu burgers and vending machine snacks. After that, it was water fountains and skipped meals. My stomach would rumble so loudly in class that kids would turn and stare. School became its own kind of prison. Becca had done her work well. Within a week, everyone had heard her version of the story. I was Kyle, the thief, the psycho who got kicked out. She made it sound like I was one step away from being a full-blown junkie. Kids would physically move their backpacks closer to them when I sat down. Teachers watched me with a new, suspicious glint in their eyes. I'll never forget sitting down in math class and a girl next to me audibly whispering, "Sorry, I just don't want my stuff to get stolen." The entire row snickered. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, but I knew it was useless. Their minds were already made up. One afternoon in the hallway, Evan, one of the basketball players, shoulder checked me hard. "Watch your hands." "Thief," he sneered. On pure reflex, I shoved him back. For a second, I thought we were going to fight. But a teacher broke it up. I was the one who got the warning. "One more incident, Kyle, and you're suspended." I was a ghost in my own school. I sat alone at lunch. When I had food to eat, I walked the halls alone. I pretended I didn't care. But inside, it was eating me alive. The nights were the worst. I'd curl up behind those dumpsters, using my backpack as a pillow, and just try to disappear. The cold concrete made my back ache. My shoes were permanently damp. And all I could think about, over and over, was that my own family did this to me. Not a stranger. Not an enemy. My sister. My parents. By the third week, I was running on fumes. I hadn't had a real meal in 2 days. The garbage bag I dragged everywhere was torn. My clothes inside were dirty and smelled like mildew. It was a sign around my neck, "Homeless loser." One night, it started to rain. A cold, miserable drizzle that soaked through my hoodie in minutes. My trash bag finally gave up, splitting open and spilling half my clothes onto the wet sidewalk. I just stood there for a minute, staring at them. I eventually gathered them up, clutching the ripped bag to my chest. I ended up under the awning of a closed laundromat, shivering uncontrollably. My stomach was cramping with hunger. The kind that makes you dizzy. That was my breaking point. I sat there, my back against the cold brick, thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what they wanted. For me to just disappear out here where no one would even notice. I tried to get help. I really did. I thought if I could just get one adult to listen, to really hear my side of the story, things might change. I was wrong. My first stop was the school counselor's office. I sat on that vinyl chair, my heart pounding, and I told her everything. The history of favoritism, Becca planting the money, my parents throwing me out. I told her I was sleeping behind a gas station. She listened, nodding with that blank professional expression counselors have. When I finished, she let out a long sigh. "Kyle," she said, her voice dripping with condescending pity. "I understand you're under a lot of stress, but accusing your sister without any evidence isn't going to help. Mayev dropped. But I'm telling the truth. Your parents already spoke with us," she continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "They're very concerned about your behavior. They said you've been unstable." Unstable. That word hit me like a punch. They weren't just calling me a thief anymore. They were painting me as crazy. It was the perfect excuse. Anything I said could be dismissed as the ramblings of a troubled kid. "The best way to show your family you're trustworthy," she finished, "is through your actions. Focus on your schoolwork. So, suck it up." That's what she was telling me. My next attempt was a payphone outside a supermarket. I called my Aunt Carol, my mom's sister. She picked up, her voice cheerful until she recognized mine. As soon as I explained what happened, her tone turned cold. "Kyle, this isn't something I can get involved in. Your parents are doing what they think is best. Maybe if you just said you were sorry." I hung up before she could finish the sentence. My own family? My own blood. And they didn't want to touch this. Everyone wanted the easy story. Kyle's the problem. Becca's perfect. Case closed. The final, crushing blow came a few days later. I was sitting on a park bench, just trying to waste time until the library opened, when my dad's car screeched to a halt in front of me. He got out, slamming the door. "Get in the car," he ordered. I stayed frozen on the bench. "Not unless you're ready to admit." Becca lied. His face twisted in fury. Don't you dare talk about your sister like that. She's been through enough because of you. Through enough, I shot back. She framed me, and you just believed her. He took a step closer, pointing his finger at me like it was a weapon. You are going to come home. You are going to admit what you did. And you are going to apologize. Or, I will call the police and tell them you've been stealing from stores. Do you understand me? I clutched my backpack. I'm not coming home to be treated like that again. Call whoever you want. I'm not admitting to something I didn't do. For a second, I thought he was going to hit me. His fists were clenched. His face was beet red. But then he just spun around, got back in his car, and peeled out, leaving me shaking on the bench. He didn't want the truth. He just wanted control. He wanted me to break. It was in that moment, sitting there in the park, that I finally understood something crucial. I had been waiting for someone to rescue me. A teacher, a counselor, a relative, but it was never going to happen. It took me a while to understand why. Years later, I'd learn about something in psychology called the loyal bystander syndrome. In a toxic family system, the other members, the aunts, the uncles, even the parent who isn't the primary abuser often choose to stay silent. It's not always because they agree with the injustice. It's because speaking up means risking their own safe position, their own share of that conditional love. Their silence is a survival strategy. They become loyal bystanders to the system that feeds them, even if it's starving someone else. My aunt wasn't just abandoning me, she was protecting herself. The counselor wasn't just dismissing me, she was taking the path of least resistance. They were all loyal to the system. And I was on the outside. Realizing that was terrifying. But it was also the start of everything. I knew then that no one was coming. If I wanted to survive this, I had to be my own hero. That night, I was back at the gas station, my back against the cold brick wall. A neon sign buzzed overhead, casting a sickly green glow. Cars came and went. People filling their tanks, buying snacks, living their normal lives. I was completely invisible. Then I heard a voice I had grown to despise more than any other. Wow. Didn't think you'd last this long out here. I looked up. It was Becca. She was holding a soda, looking casual, like she was just stopping by to say hello. A smirk played on her lips. What do you want? I growled. Curious. I guess, she said, taking a sip. Wanted to see how long it would take before you came crawling back. Begging. My fists clenched. Why are you doing this to me? She let out a small, bitter laugh. You think you had it rough. Try being me. Mom and Dad never let me slip. Not once. Every grade. Every chore. Everything was, don't be like your brother. That's all I ever heard. She took a step closer. Now, for once, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to prove anything. All I have to do is not be you, and honestly, that's easy. I'm not giving that up. You're sick, I muttered. Her smirk widened. What's really sick is how easy it was. Everyone already thought you were the screw-up. I just gave them the proof they were looking for. I wanted to yell, to shove her, to do something. But I was frozen. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. And if you keep pushing this, if you keep running your mouth about me, I'll make up something even worse. And then you won't just be homeless. You'll be locked up. She said it so calmly, with such confidence. It made my skin crawl. She wasn't bluffing. She was already planning her next move. She turned and walked away, disappearing into the night, as if she hadn't just threatened to destroy what little I had left. As I sat there, a thought hit me like a physical blow. She didn't just want me gone. She wanted me erased. By the third week, I hit a new low. My money was gone. My phone was a dead brick. The hunger was a constant. Seeing pain. One night, a security guard at the library caught me again. I told you, kid. One more time, and I report you. You'll be suspended. It started to rain shortly after he kicked me out. A cold, relentless downpour. I walked for what felt like miles. My clothes soaked through. My trash bag finally tore. And my few remaining clothes spilled onto the wet sidewalk. I just stood there, staring at them. I ended up under the awning of a closed laundromat, shivering, my stomach cramping. That was my breaking point. I sat there, water dripping around me, and thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is how it ends. That's when Lindsay found me. She came running up, holding an umbrella, her hair plastered to her forehead. Kyle, why haven't you been answering? I've been looking everywhere for you. My phone's dead. I mumbled. She crouched down next to me, her jeans soaking up the puddle I was sitting in. You look awful. Thanks. I tried to laugh, but it came out as a sob. She pressed a crumpled envelope into my hand. Here. Take it. I looked inside. It was about $60. Mostly in small bills and change. Her allowance. Lindsay. I can't. You can. She cut me off, her voice fierce. I don't need it. You do. I couldn't speak. I just clutched the envelope like it was a winning lottery ticket. She looked around, then lowered her voice. There's something else. Becca. She was bragging at a party last night. I heard her. My head snapped up. She told people she planted the money, that she set you up. Finally. Proof. She admitted it. Yeah. Lindsay said. To hear expression grim. But Kyle. Nobody believed her. They thought she was just trying to sound tough. A few people even said that, even if it was true, you probably deserved it. Deserved it. The word echoed in my head. That's what they thought of me. That I deserved to be homeless. Starving. And alone. It wasn't just my parents. It was everyone. They had all written me off. That night, something inside me changed. The hope that someone would save me finally died. And in its place, something harder, colder, and stronger began to grow. If no one was going to stand up for me, I would have to do it myself. I got to my feet, my mind strangely clear. I walked to the 24-hour gas station, went into the bathroom, and used the hand soap and paper towels to clean the cuts on my arm and cheek. They stung, but the pain was grounding. I looked at my reflection in the cracked mirror. The kid staring back was thin, pale, with dark circles under his eyes. But there was a fire in them I hadn't seen before. I took the $60 Lindsay had given me and bought a bus ticket. Not out of town, but to the other side of it. Then I bought a cheap prepaid phone and a charger. I had a plan. Desperate. Risky plan. My last stop was the library. Not to sleep, but to work. I used their computers to do something I should have done weeks ago. I created a new, anonymous email address. And I started writing. I wrote down everything. Every detail of the framing. Every dismissive comment from my parents. Every night I spent in the cold. Every insult at school. I wrote about Becca's confession at the gas station. I wrote about my dad throwing the glass. It was all there. A rough, unfiltered account of the last few weeks. Then, I started sending it. I sent it to the school principal. I sent it to the counselor who had dismissed me. I sent it to every teacher on the school staff directory. I sent it to the pastor at our church. I sent it to my Aunt Carol and every other relative whose email I could find. And then, I sent it to my mom. I didn't know if it would work. I didn't know if anyone would believe me. But it was the only weapon I had left. The truth. I walked back to my parents' street. The rain finally stopping. The air was clean and cold. I didn't go to the house. I waited across the street, hidden in the shadows of a large oak tree. And I watched. For a long time. Nothing happened. Lights were on inside. I imagined them. Comfortable. Warm. Oblivious. Then, around 10 o'clock, I saw my mom's silhouette in the living room window. She was looking at her phone. She stood still for a very long time. Then I saw her hand go to her mouth. A few minutes later, the front door opened. It was Becca. She was on her phone, laughing about something, saying goodbye to a friend. She stepped out onto the porch, her back to me. I held my breath. This was it. I saw my mom appear in the doorway behind her. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, watching her daughter. Becca finished her call and turned around. She saw my mom and her smile faltered. What, she asked, her voice laced with annoyance. I just got an email, my mom said, her voice trembling. From Kyle. Becca rolled her eyes. Oh my God. Is he still going on about that? He's so pathetic. That's when I knew I had her. I stepped out from behind the tree. Becca's head snapped in my direction. Her eyes widened in shock. What do you want now? I asked, my voice carrying across the quiet street. She looked from me to my mom. A cornered animal. She decided to play her usual card. She jogged down the steps, a smug smile returning to her face. Relax, she said loudly. For my mom's benefit. I just wanted to see how far you'd actually take this. I walked closer. stopping at the edge of their lawn. Farther than you think. I said. I'm done letting you run the show. Herr you still don't get it. Do you? No one is ever going to believe you. You can scream, cry, bleed all over the sidewalk. It won't matter. To them, you'll always be the screw-up. And I'll always be the one they're proud of. Say it again? I challenged. My voice low. She leaned in. Her voice, a cruel whisper, but loud enough for the porch to hear. I framed you. I planted the money. And I'd do it again. Watching you beg while I win, that's the best part. A gasp came from the porch. A single, sharp intake of breath that cut through the night. Excuse me. We both froze. My mom was standing at the bottom of the porch steps, her face pale in the streetlight. Her arms were crossed tightly over her chest. For once, her eyes weren't filled with anger at me. They were fixed on Becca, filled with a horrified disbelief. What did you just say? My mom asked, her voice shaking. Becca stiffened. The smirk wiped clean from her face. Mom, it was nothing. He's twisting it. Don't lie to me, my mom said, stepping onto the sidewalk. I heard you. You admitted it. You said you planted the money? For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. A tiny crack of hope. My own voice came out. Ragged. You heard her. Mom, you finally heard her. Becca's mouth opened and closed. No excuses. No fake tears. No quick spin. She was caught. The screen door slammed open and my dad stormed onto the porch. What the hell is going on out here? My mom turned to face him, her hands shaking. She admitted it. Robert, she just admitted she framed Kyle. My dad blinked, his face losing its color. He looked at Becca, his jaw tight. Is that true? Becca's lip quivered. She looked from me, to my mom, to my dad, panic flashing in her eyes. She opened her mouth to deny it again, but then something in her snapped. So what if I did? She spat. The words coming out like venom? I had to. You two were always leaning on me to be the perfect one. I couldn't risk him screwing that up, so I took care of it. I made sure he was the one you gave up on. The silence that followed was deafening. My mom staggered back, her hand flying to her mouth. Oh. My God. Tears streamed down her face. My dad just stood red, his face a mask of shock and fury. Not at me. For once. At her. You threw me out? I said, my voice thick with all the pain of the last few weeks. You believed her over me. You tossed me in the street because she cried and pointed her finger. And now you hear the truth. And it's too late. Don't act like you're some victim. Becca snarled, trying to regain control. You were always the mistake. I just made sure everyone else finally saw it. I just stood there, bleeding and exhausted. But finally vindicated. They knew. The lie was broken. And their perfect little world was starting to crumble. In the aftermath of Becca's confession, a strange, heavy silence fell over our front lawn. My mom's sobs were the only sound, muffled by her hands. My dad stood like a statue, the anger on his face slowly being replaced by a deep, hollow shock. Becca, realizing she had lost, tried one last time to wield her power. It's his fault, she said, her voice shaking. He's always been jealous. Quiet, my dad said. The word was low, but it had a finality I'd never heard him use with her before. I stepped forward, the adrenaline starting to fade, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. You don't get to just stand here and be shocked, I said, my voice steady. You did this. You threw me out. You let the whole town think I was a thief because it was easier than questioning your perfect daughter. You don't fix that with a few tears. My dad's head snapped toward me. Watch your tone. No, I said, the word like a stone. You don't get to tell me about my tone anymore. You lost that right when you threw me out barefoot. If you want me to even think about stepping back into that house, you are going to fix this. The right way. My mom looked up, her eyes red and swollen. Publicly. I nodded. You are going to write a post. On Facebook. On the church community page. In the family group chat. I don't care where. You are going to tell everyone the truth. That I never stole a dime. That Becca framed me. And that you failed? You failed as parents. You will admit it for everyone to see. My dad's face reddened. We don't air our family business in public. I let out a bitter laugh. You already did. You did it the second you threw me onto that porch with a trash bag. You let Becca's lies run wild at my school. At church. With our neighbors. You were fine with everyone whispering about me. Now, you're going to be fine undoing it. My mom's weeping intensified. She turned to my dad. Her voice breaking. Robert. He's right. We did this. We have to. He stood rigid. His jaw clenched. But he didn't argue. For the first time. His silence wasn't a weapon against me. It was the silence of defeat. My mom, shaking, pulled out her phone. If you won't say it, she whispered to my dad. Then I will. Her fingers trembled over the screen. Tell me what to write, she said to me. Not looking up, Becca's head jerked toward her. Mom. You can't? Quiet, my mom snapped. A fire in her voice. I had never heard before. You did this. You brought this on us. I walked closer, my heart pounding, and dictated the words slowly and clearly. We need to make a public apology. Our son, Kyle, was wrongly accused of stealing. The truth is, our daughter, Becca, framed him. And in our failure to see the truth, we believed her. We have failed as parents, and we have caused immense harm to Kyle's reputation. He deserves to be seen for who he is, an innocent kid. We abandoned. My mom typed every word. Her hands shook, tears dripping onto the phone's screen. But she typed it all, and then she hit post. The words were out. The truth was out there for the world to see. Within minutes, her phone started buzzing. Then it was a constant stream of pings, notifications. Comments started pouring in from aunts, uncles, church members, neighbors. We had no idea. I'm so sorry. Kyle, this takes incredible courage to admit. My dad's face grew pale as he listened to the endless stream of notifications. His iron grip on our family's narrative was gone. It had shattered in a matter of minutes. You just ruined my life. Becca shrieked, her voice high and thin. Everyone's going to hate me now. My dad finally turned on her, his voice low and dangerous. No. Becca, you ruined your own life? Her face crumpled. For the first time, there were no fake tears. Nosmirk. Just raw, unfiltered panic. I stood there, feeling a strange lightness. You wanted me erased? Becca, I said quietly. Now it's your perfect image that's been erased. Everyone finally knows who you really are. She stared at me, her voice a whisper. They'll never forgive you for this. You'll always be the one who caused all this drama. I stepped closer, my gaze locked on hers. No. I'll be the one who survived it. You'll be the liar who got caught. The only sounds were my mom's quiet sobs and the relentless pinging of her phone. My dad looked like he had aged 10 years. And Becca, she finally just looked small. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and walked toward the porch. I looked at my parents. I'm taking my bed back. You're not doing me a favor. You owe me this. You threw me out. Now you're going to put a roof over my head. And you're going to live with what you did every single day. No one argued. As I walked into the house, the familiar smell of home felt alien. But I wasn't a guest anymore. I had fought my way back. I dropped my torn garbage bag at the foot of the stairs and looked at the three of them. Standing there, shattered. You wanted a perfect family so badly. You were willing to throw one of your own away. I said, my voice low, but carrying through the silent house. Tonight, you told the world the truth. Don't think for a second that fixes this. But at least now, everyone knows. And then I walked up the stairs, each step heavy, but sure. For the first time in weeks, I was going to sleep in a real bed. Not because they let me, but because I had demanded it. They had cast me out, but I was the one who chose to return. That first night back in my room felt strange. The bed was the same. But I wasn't. I lay awake for hours, listening to the muffled sounds of my parents talking downstairs. Their voices rising and falling in tones of disbelief and regret. I wasn't celebrating. There was no joy in this victory. Only a grim, hollow sense of justice. The next morning, the house was silent. I came downstairs to find my mom sitting at the kitchen table, staring into a cold cup of coffee. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. My dad was gone, already left for work, probably unable to face the fallout. Becca's door was closed. My mom looked up when I walked in. I'm so sorry. Kyle. She whispered. The words felt small, inadequate for the chasm that had opened between us. I just nodded and got myself a glass of water. Where are the first aid supplies? I asked, gesturing to the cuts on my arm. Her eyes widened as if seeing them for the first time. And another wave of guilt washed over her face. The days that followed were a tightrope walk of awkward silences and tense conversations. The Facebook post had detonated a bomb in our extended family and community. My parents were flooded with calls. Some were supportive, but many were from relatives who felt betrayed by the deception. My dad, a man who cared deeply about appearances, was forced to have humiliating conversations, admitting his failure over and over. Becca became a ghost in her own home. She stayed in her room, emerging only for meals, which she ate in silence, her eyes fixed on her plate. At school, the tables had turned completely. The story of her deception spread like wildfire. The same kids who had called me a thief now looked at her with contempt. She had gone from the golden child to a pariah overnight. I didn't take any pleasure in it. I just felt empty. My parents tried to make things right in clumsy, misguided ways. My mom cooked all my favorite meals. My dad bought me a new laptop, a top-of-the-line model that was far better than my old one. A real tool for your music, he'd said awkwardly, leaving it on my bed. It was a peace offering, but it felt like blood money. I accepted it, because I needed it, but it didn't fix anything. The real change began slowly. It started with my dad. One evening, he knocked on my door. He was holding a framed photo. It was a picture of me from when I was 10, holding up a model rocket I had built. I had won second place in the science fair. He had barely acknowledged it at the time. I found this in the attic, he said, his voice rough. I remember that day. You were so proud of that rocket. You explained the whole propulsion system to me. I wasn't listening. Was I? I just shook my head. I was so focused on Becca's softball game that afternoon. He continued, more to himself than to me. I always saw your talents as hobbies, quiet things, not like Becca's achievements, which were loud and public. I was wrong. I see that now. This, he said, tapping the glass of the photo. This was just as important as any trophy she ever won. It was the first time he had ever validated my interests. My world. It wasn't a full apology for everything, but it was a start. A crack in the wall he had built between us. My relationship with Becca was more complicated. One night, she came to my room. They hate me now, she whispered, standing in the doorway. Everyone at school. Mom and Dad. They look at me like I'm a monster. You did a monstrous thing, Becca, I said, not unkindly. Tears welled in her eyes. Real ones this time. I know. I was so scared. Scared of not being the perfect one. Scared of ending up like they saw you. A disappointment I finished for her. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Kyle. I never wanted it to go this far. I didn't forgive her. Not then. It wasn't that simple. But for the first time, I saw the scared little girl behind the monster. The girl who was just as trapped in the golden child role as I was in the scapegoat. Won. I had won. I had gotten the truth out. But standing there, in that silent house, with my grieving mother, my humbled father, and my broken sister, I realized the victory was a hollow one. We were all casualties of a war. None of us should have been fighting. I had my place back. I had my name back. But the family I had returned to was gone forever. Replaced by the fractured, honest, and painful reality of who we all really were. And maybe, just maybe, that was a start. My life wasn't magically fixed. The truth coming out was a victory. But it left a battlefield in its wake. I stayed in that house. But it never truly felt like home again. It was a place of ghosts. A constant reminder of the betrayal. The real healing began when I realized I had a choice. I didn't have to stay trapped in their drama. I had fought for my place back. And now I could choose to leave it on my own terms. After I graduated high school, I moved away for college and never looked back. My relationship with my parents became one of polite distance. We spoke on holidays, exchanged birthday cards. The apology was never forgotten. But the scar remained. They were trying. In their own way. But some things can't be unbroken. Becca and I found a strange, He had peace. She had to rebuild her life from scratch. Without the safety net of being the golden child. It was hard for her. But she did it. She became a more honest, more humble person because of it. We weren't close. But we were no longer enemies. The biggest lesson I learned wasn't about them. It was about me. I learned that my worth was never up for their approval. I learned that standing up for yourself, even when you're standing alone, is the most important battle you'll ever fight. They called me the problem child. The black sheep. But sometimes, it's the black sheep who has the courage to walk his own path. Away from a herd that's heading in the wrong direction. I built my own life. My own success. On my own terms. And that was a victory that belonged only to me. Have you ever been the scapegoat in your own family? Have you ever had to fight to make your truth heard? Share your story in the comments below. And if you believe that setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, hit that subscribe button. Story 2. My name is Nora Parker. I am 34. 10 years ago, my younger sister left her 3-month-old baby on my doorstep in a cold Austin rain and disappeared. My parents told me the baby was my burden now. I took that tiny girl in, named Lily, and raised her as my own. This spring, my sister came back with our parents and sued to take Lily away. On the first morning of that hearing, I handed the judge a sealed folder. The room went quiet. The judge looked over her glasses and asked if they even knew what I had. I nodded once and waited. In my family, favoritism is a tradition. My sister Ava breaks rules. My parents call it creativity. I ask for help. They call it learning responsibility. When I begged them to come over the night Lily arrived, they refused. When I worked late and did telehealth after bedtime to afford diapers and therapy, they called me dramatic. When the crisis hit, they did worse. They stood beside Ava and tried to erase the only mother Lily has ever known. They had no idea what I was building while I kept my mouth shut. I logged every call. I saved every text. I learned the school privacy policies by heart. I studied the Texas Family Code. I tracked brand deals they bragged about online. I learned which board oversees Trent's counseling license. I built a record that did not shout. It only showed the truth. Page by page. Date by date. When they realized how deep that record went, it was too late. This is not revenge. This is respect. Boundaries. And the best interests of a child. It is what happens when you choose facts over noise and consistency over chaos. Subscribe before you hear the ending. That turned a custody fight into a reckoning. And the moment a sealed folder changed everything. I grow up in North Austin where every weekend feels like a meeting. My dad, Gordon, runs the HOA vice chair like a second job. My mom, Elaine, is a deaconess at church and treats every potluck like a performance review. I learn early that I am the reliable one. I set out folding chairs. I bring extra ice. I send follow-up emails with bullet points and times. My sister, Ava, is the golden child. She breaks rules, and my parents call it creativity. I follow rules, and they call it bare minimum. I can measure the favoritism in dollars and dates. In May 2012, I asked for help with my nursing board costs. The NCLEX fee is $315. The Texas license application is $106. Fingerprints and a background check are $80. My mom says learning responsibility will make me a better nurse. That July, my parents surprise Ava with a used hatchback. $18,400. Plates and insurance are included. They call it an investment in her potential. In November 2014, Ava calls from California, crying from a loud street in San Diego. She says she needs help. My dad wires $1,500 by 9 the next morning. When I ask for $200 to enroll in an extra pediatric pharmacology course the hospital recommends, he says professional development is my choice, not a family burden. In March 2017, my parents pay $23,000 for a private wellness retreat so Ava can reset. I hear the number from a friend at church who heard it from my mother. That spring, I buy a secondhand couch for $280 cash. My parents say the pattern looks tired. I am used to being useful. I am the person with the phone charger, the spare band-aids, and the printed directions. I sit with neighbors in the emergency department at 2 in the morning. I build spreadsheets for meal trains. I hold crying toddlers while a doctor explains stitches. At work, I am a pediatric ICU nurse at Central Texas Children's. 12-hour shifts. Beeping monitors. Vent settings and careful notes. I love the precision. I love the quiet breath after a child stabilizes. By October 2015, I am 24. On day shifts most weeks. And dating Mason, an architect I meet through friends. We talk about moving in after the holidays. Then a Tuesday rain comes down like a sheet, and the doorbell rings twice. It is 9:30. A car seat sits on my mat, wet around the edges of a thin blanket. Inside is a 3-month-old with dark hair. There is a folded note. 7 words. Her name is Lily. I cannot do this. Take care of her. I am sorry. I call my parents. My mother says we told her not to have that baby. My father says she is your burden now. Then they hang up. I call Mason. He says call social services. I ask him to grab diapers and formula from a 24-hour store. He says, this is not our problem, and he does not come. I put Lily back in her car seat and drive to the 24-hour supermarket on Burnett Road. A night clerk named Marisol helps me pick formula marked for 3 months, and I pay $126.48. We go home. I warm a bottle in a saucepan. I line a dresser drawer with towels and make a crib. I sleep in pieces. The next morning I file a police report. The officer explains that a mother can leave a baby with a family member. There is no crime to pursue. I call a family lawyer and learn about temporary guardianship. It will take time and money. Within 2 weeks I move from my 1-bedroom to a small 2-bedroom in Brentwood, so Lily can have a room. First month rent is $1,500. The deposit is 1,500%. A second-hand crib is $100 from a neighbor who is moving. I shift to 30 hours a week and stay on day shifts when I can. I find a home daycare run by Teresa Santiago. $225 a week. I label every receipt and slide them into a clear sleeve in a green binder. At night, I remind myself that I am a mandated reporter and a careful charting nurse. I start charting my life with the same discipline. I log every call to my parents and their exact words. I save every text. I scan the note from Ava and store it in a plastic sleeve. I keep a timeline that begins with the Tuesday rain in October 2015 and adds new lines each week. It feels clinical, but it calms me. Facts are solid when people are not. My parents show up 3 or 4 times in the first year. They hold Lily like she might break. They say my apartment looks cluttered. They tell me I look tired. They never bring diapers. They never wash a bottle. They ask if I have heard from Ava. I say if I learn anything. You will be the first to know. The truth is I have stopped asking. Their answers do not help. Their visits make Lily quiet. I learn to plan something bright after they leave. Like a walk to the park, or a visit to Mrs. Santiago's porch to water her plants. My coworkers save me more than once. A month after Lily arrives, the unit throws a baby shower. Diapers stacked like a tower. A used stroller in perfect condition. Gift cards tucked into a card that says we have your back. Teresa helps me set up a bedtime routine, and the miracle of a white noise app. We build Friday movie nights with popcorn in a big bowl, and Sunday mornings at the small park down the street. I take photos by date and drop them into a folder called Lily First Year. I print a few and tape them to the fridge. In one, she is grinning at a cardboard box like it is the best toy in the world. When Lily turns 1, we host a simple party at home. Teresa bakes a cake with pale frosting and tiny stars. My friend from the unit brings balloons. My parents decline the invite. I write Ava another letter and tuck it into a box with Lily first. Socks. The folded note, and a printed photo of the cake. I do not know if Ava will ever read any of it. I only know that one day Lily will have a record that tells the truth. I work and we grow. I reduce my shifts to balance daycare pickup and naps. I add a small telehealth block 2 evenings a week after Lily falls asleep. The extra income is modest, but it covers therapy when Lily is older and needs a safe place to talk about big feelings. I open a savings account in her name and set up an automatic transfer of $50 a month. It is not much, but it means momentum. By the time Lily is 3, our routines feel like home. Her favorite stuffed bunny goes everywhere. She builds towers with blocks and knocks them down to see how they fall. She is curious and stubborn and funny. She mishears Nora as Nana and calls me that for a long time. I answer to it every time. As she gets older, she switches to Mom without fanfare. Both names feel true. One belongs to the start. One belongs to now. The pattern with my parents does not change. My mother delivers comments that feel like tiny cuts. She says Lily should be in ballet like the other girls on our street. She brings a tutu. 2 sizes too small. Lily wants dinosaurs and blocks. My father asks about Ava, and then goes quiet when I say I have no updates. No one mentions the night. They told me the baby was my burden. I stop expecting an apology. I stop expecting help. I keep doing what I know. I chart. I save. I learn the Austin ISD rules about student privacy and volunteers. I read the Texas Family Code sections on best interests of a child. I learn that facts matter more than volume. I learn to make a binder for anything that might one day matter. School records go into a blue binder. Medical and therapy records go into green. Incidents and policies go into red. Finances go into white. I do not know yet that these colors will steady me later. I only know that order lowers my heart rate. I close the loop with Mason quietly. After the night, he refused to help. The next week brings a short call. He says this is not the life he pictured. I say I understand. We do not meet again. I pack his few things into a box and send it to his office. I do not add a note. I do not need one. We move through holidays and seasons. We go to the local library on Saturday mornings. We plant marigold seeds in cups on the windowsill and watch them sprout. We visit the small splash pad in summer. I take videos and label them by date. I make a simple memory book with pictures and words that explain our family to Lily in a way she can hold. Some families are made by blood. Some are made by heart. Ours is made by both. There is no room for shame in that sentence. By early 2019, Lily is almost 4. She can write her name in big letters that lean. She asks hard questions about where she came from and why her birth mom left her with me. I tell the truth, she can handle. Ava was sick and scared. She made sure you came to me because she knew I would love you. I promise Lily that our home does not change. I tell her that love is not fragile. I say it enough that I hear it echo back to me on hard days. Everything feels stable until my dad calls near the end of March, 2019. He says Sunday dinner. He says it is a family reunion. He sounds pleased with himself. I ask who will be there. He says, your mother, me, and a surprise. I say I need to know. He says come and see. Against my better judgment. I agree because Lily loves any dinner that includes rolls and a chance to draw at the table. I mark the date on the calendar. Sunday, April 7. 2019. I pack crayons and snacks and a small book for the car. I do not know yet that Ava will walk in with a man who introduces himself as a counselor. I do not know yet that they will ask to take Lily from me. I only know we have a dinner at my parents' house, and that my almost 4-year-old is excited to show her latest drawing of 2 people inside a red heart. I buckle her into her seat and tell myself to breathe. The Sunday dinner invitation, in April 2019, sets the stage. That is when everything changes. Sunday, April 7. 2019. I park in front of my parents' house with Lily, almost 4, strapped in her booster. Crayons in a zip bag on her lap. My dad opens the door before I knock. He looks pleased. My mom has set the table like a holiday. I clock the extra place settings and understand there is no surprise. There is a reveal. Ava walks in from the kitchen with a man at her shoulder. He offers a careful smile and a firm handshake. I am Trent. He says. I am a counselor. They are visiting from out of state for a few days. My mother adds. Like she is presenting a guest speaker. Dinner stays polida ante dessert. Ava folds her napkin. Keeps her eyes on the table. Then says the line she came here to say. I am healthy now. Married. And stable. I want to be Lily's mother again. Trent clears his throat and adds that a child belongs with her mother when possible. My dad nods. My mom nods. The air tilts. I look at Lily on the living room rug. Showing Trent her purple crayon. I hear my own voice steady and low. I am her mother. I have been her mother since October 2015. Ava answers without heat. I am the biological mother. We have a house with a yard and a better school district. We have room. We have resources. We have plans. She lists advantages like a brochure. She does not list the nights. She does not list the bottles. The fevers. The shift swaps. The small hands clutching my finger at 2 in the morning. I ask for one thing. Do not talk about custody in front of Lily. We can discuss adults only. My mother says children are resilient. My father says we need to be practical. I ask them to please stop. They do not. That is the moment I understand. I am in this alone. Not new information. But new clarity. I gather Lily's drawings. Thank everyone for the meal. And take my daughter home. In the car, Lily asks if Aunt Ava is her new mom. I say no. I say our home does not change. She says, promise. I cross my heart and promise again. That night, Lily wakes from a small nightmare and whispers, do not take me. I hold her hand and watch the red light of the baby monitor glow. I make a decision without drama. I will not argue, chase, or plead. I will prepare. I will be the calmest person in any room. I will build a plan that does not depend on anyone else seeing reason. I start by tightening the circle. I answer fewer family texts. I skip church for a few weeks and take Lily to the park instead. I do not bring her to my parents' house. I do not explain why. It is safer not to test my own boundaries while I am still angry. At work, I ask for a quiet corner during lunch and use it to study. I print the Texas Family Code sections on best interests of the child. I highlight the words stable environment, primary caregiver, and psychological well-being. I print Austin ISD policies on student privacy and filming. I add them to a red binder labeled Policies and Incidents. I keep the binder on a shelf above the microwave so I see it when I make coffee. Money becomes its own project. I add a second telehealth block on Tuesdays after Lily goes to sleep. 1.5 hours. Pediatric calls only. By June, I have added $300 a month to savings. By December, I have saved $6,800 for Lily's future and $3,000 for emergencies. I list each deposit in a white binder labeled Finances. I open a high-yield savings account and move the emergency fund there. I set reminders to transfer $50 on the first of every month to Lily's college account. The numbers are not big, but they are forward motion I control. Skills come next. I take a continuing education class called Documentation in High Conflict Custody. $149. I complete PALS recertification early. I shadow our unit educator for 2 weekends to understand how hospital investigators audit charts. I do not tell anyone why this interests me. I only add the certificates to a blue binder labeled Work and Development. I update my resume. Not because I plan to leave, but because readiness is a form of peace. I also begin a quiet sweep of Ava and Trent's public footprint. They still live out of state in 2019. Their feeds are clean. All morning routines and gratitude lists, and 2-person yoga poses at sunset. I screenshot any reference to family, even the vague ones about healing old bonds. I save brand partnership posts with dates and captions. I do not share these with anyone. Documentation is not a threat. It is a habit. A week after that dinner, my mom calls to propose a family brunch and mentions that a traditional 2-parent home would be best for Lily. I ask her to stop using Lily to make a point. She says I am being sensitive. I say we are taking a break from family gatherings. She says that is dramatic. I do not rise to the bait. I say take care, Mom, and end the call. I write the date, time, and her exact words on a single sheet and slide it into the red binder. But they do not know what I am building. I check in with Lily's pediatrician about her sleep after the dinner. He suggests a bedtime routine and reassurance, and says to monitor for persistent anxiety before referring to therapy. I set a routine like a metronome. Bath. Books. Lights down. A soft hum of white noise. I tell Lily the same sentence every night. You are safe. Our home does not change. By summer, she stops waking in the night. I note that, too. Not every record is about damage. Many are about repair. Mason, the man I dated in 2015, reaches out once by text that summer. Hope you are well. I am. Take care. He does not write again. I do not miss him. I note that not as a jab, but as a benchmark. The life I am building is not a holding pattern. It is an answer. By the end of 2019, I can state my reality in a paragraph of facts. I am Lily's only consistent parent since October 2015. She is almost 4 and thriving. I work day shifts in the pediatric ICU. I add telehealth after bedtime. I keep school and medical records current / I have an emergency fund and a college fund. I know the policies that protect children in schools and in court. When I feel a question rising in my throat, I open a binder instead. That is when everything changes again. Slowly at first. Ava begins to grow her audience. She rebrands as Ava Monroe. She leans into wellness, sobriety, and second chances. Trent appears in supportive husband posts. They talk about expanding their family one day. They still do not mention Lily. The more their presence grows, the more I tighten my process. Screenshots with dates, notes on captions, a simple spreadsheet that links a brand announcement to the week they call my mother. No conclusions. Only columns. Years tick by in steady lines. Lily starts kindergarten in 2020. A first grade in 2021. Second in 2022. We keep Friday movie nights and Sunday park mornings. I accept an interim charge role in the ICU and learn to manage staffing grids. I present a unit in service on trauma-informed care for pediatrics. I apply for the District Health Services Coordinator role in late 2024 and get a call to interview. At home, Lily grows into a curious, resilient kid who paints our porch with water on hot days just to watch it dry like disappearing clouds. In late summer 2024, Ava and Trent move to the Austin area. They buy in Pflugerville with a large mortgage. My parents host a small welcome back dinner that we do not attend. I keep my lane. I keep my records. I keep my promise to Lily. What happened next shocks everyone. Not because I raise my voice, but because I never need to. When the crisis finally arrives, it does not come as a scene. It comes in a certified envelope. In February 2025, the petition lands on my doorstep and starts a 30-day clock. but they still have no idea how prepared I am. The petition arrives in early February, 2025. A green certified envelope on my mat. I open it at the kitchen table while Lily works on a science worksheet. The clock starts. 30 days. I call a family attorney in Travis County the next morning. Her name is Maya Delgado. I bring a box of records, and my timeline. She asks clear questions. She quotes the statute. She tells me we will let the facts do the talking. I sign a retainer for $10,000. I walk out with a list and a schedule. I turn my dining room into a war room. Binders by color and task. Blue for school. Green for medical and therapy. Red for policies and incidents. White for money. I label every spine with a date range. I keep a notepad on the table and write what I did each day. The habit keeps me calm. But they do not know what I am building. Week 1 is proof of daily life. I request attendance logs from parent-teacher meetings. I print emails with teachers about reading goals and art projects. I gather report cards and copies of permission slips with my signature. I ask the school counselor for a summary of Lily progress and concerns. I add each item to the blue binder with a sticky note that lists the date and why it matters. I call Lily therapist and ask for a formal letter. We book additional sessions, so the report is current. The cost lands hard. $6,000 across 3 months, with a detailed statement for court. I pay it. I add the invoices to the green binder. I remind myself that peace for a child is the only return that matters. I hire a licensed private investigator with digital forensics experience. His name is Evan Brooks. The retainer is $5,000. The estimate is $12,000 in total. I give him a narrow scope. Verify Trent searches related to Lily biological father. Confirm the inheritance timing for Jason Reynolds. Map Ava brand deals against their private outreach to me. Document. Do not argue. Dates. Sources. File names. He nods and gets to work. Meanwhile, life keeps moving. I interview for a district role I have been working toward for years. In January, I receive an offer to serve as the health services coordinator for the district. 14% increase in salary. Better hours. Clear authority. It feels like oxygen. My mother calls the next day. She congratulates me. Then she says this proves Lily should transition to Ava after court because I will be so busy. I log the call. I write her exact words. I say no. I say my work gives me more time with Lily. Not less. I end the call and add the sheet to the red binder. The family behavior does not change. Ava and Trent rehearse a story online about healing and reunification. They still avoid saying Lily name. Their move. In late summer 2024, put them in Pflugerville with a heavy mortgage. Evan pulls public filings and notes the payment size. The numbers leave little slack. I do not repeat this to anyone. I only file it. That is when everything changes in public. In October 2024, our church holds a fall fundraiser. Ava arrives with a camera-ready smile and a phone on a small stabilizer. She frames a shot toward the kids area. I step in and remind her that Lily is not content. A media volunteer named Brianna watches the exchange. Later, she emails me behind-the-scenes photos that show Ava staging family-restored images far from the children. I save the note and thank her. I do not post anything. I add the images to the red binder with a policy sheet from the church that protects minors from filming. Then comes the PTA art night at Lily's school in early February 2025. Ava and Trent walk in with a gimbal and talk to the phone about reunification. I do not raise my voice. I open the Austin ISD policy on my phone and read the line that bars filming students for personal content. The assistant principal steps over and backs me up. 2 parents are standing close enough to hear every word. Trent starts to argue. Then stops. Ava lowers the phone. They leave without a post. I print the policy and a short email from the assistant principal that confirms the reminder was given. I file both. 3 days later, Evan forwards an email from a brand manager to Ava team that suspends a planned wellness campaign. The note cites material discrepancies in public narrative. It is not for public use. Maya marks it as context only. We do not smear anyone. We document patterns. Evan work begins to form a clean arc. In July and August 2024, Trent runs searches for Jason Reynolds. In September and October, he schedules 2 consults with a paternity lawyer. The subject lines mention paternity and trust considerations. In the same window, probate filings show Jason receives an inheritance of about $3.2 million from his grandfather. In November, Ava messaging to me becomes warm and frequent. By December, they are in Austin full-time. I ask Evan for a single page that stacks those dates in order with sources. He delivers a table with file paths and timestamps. No color. No opinions. Just dates. I file a complaint with the Texas Counseling Board 2 weeks before the hearing. I keep it short. I attach a sequence of exhibits, school policy reminders that were ignored. Statements under oath that conflict with documents, public content that frames a custody push as a healing story for brand value. I do not use adjectives. I list facts. And I ask the board to review. Within a few weeks, they acknowledge receipt and open a preliminary file. I place the notice in the red binder and move on. Money becomes real math. By the week before court, legal fees reach $45,000. The PI total is just under $12,000. I take a small personal loan with a clear payoff plan. I set a reminder to revisit the budget after this is over. I write the totals on a single page in the white binder. Balances. Due date. Contact names. I slide the page into a clear sleeve so I can see it without opening anything. It keeps fear from driving. My parents try one more time to pull me into a compromise meeting. Gordon calls and suggests we meet for dinner to discuss a smoother path where Lily spends most of her time with Ava right away. I thank him for the invite and say no. I put a short note in the binder with the date and time. I go for a walk with Lily and count porch lights instead. I refine the record. Each binder gets a table of contents. Each document has a page number in the bottom right corner. I keep a master index on my laptop and on a small flash drive in my purse. I prepare a sealed packet for court. Inside are the timelines, the emails, the policies, the invoices, the brand notice, the probate references, and the notes that show my parents knew more than they swore. I check every source line twice. I lay out the pages in order on the table until the story is a straight line anyone can follow. But they still do not know what sits inside that folder. They still believe the loudest voice will win. The hearing date arrives like a steady drum. I iron a navy suit and pack the binders into a rolling case. I drop Lily at her art teacher house with a hug and a whispered promise that our home does not change. I pick up the sealed packet, feel the weight in my hand, and breathe. The courtroom doors open. What happens next shocks everyone. Not because I speak louder, but because the record speaks for me. March 7. 2025. I wheel a case of binders through the doors of Travis County Family Court. I wear a navy suit that holds its shape. I leave Lily with her art teacher for a day of paint and quiet. Far from echoes, Maya meets me in the hallway with a small nod. We have rehearsed the facts. We have rehearsed the order. We have not rehearsed outrage. We will not need it. The courtroom is bright with glass and slow air. Ava and Trent sit across the aisle. Ava wears a floral dress that signals softness. Trent wears a fitted suit with a still face. My parents sit behind them. My mother clutches her purse. My father looks at the clock and nods at me. The judge enters and calls the case. She explains that the best interests of the child control the day. She asks counsel to proceed. Ava testifies first. She tells a story of recovery and renewal. She says she has been sober for years. She says she is ready to be a mother. Her voice trembles at practiced moments. She speaks about a house with a yard, a quiet street, and a plan for school. She does not say Lily name. She says my daughter. The words hang like a frame that does not fit the picture. Trent follows. He describes their 4-bedroom home in Pflugerville and the school ratings he has printed. He talks about a college fund and family vacations. He says a child belongs with her mother when possible. He folds his hands and looks at the judge like he is delivering a treatment plan. He does not mention the policy reminders at the art night. He does not mention the camera in his hand. My parents speak next. My mother says she tried to be involved, but I made it difficult. She says I have always been stubborn. My father says blood is blood. He says I have done my duty, and now it is time to return the child to her mother. He keeps his eyes on the table. He does not look at the blue binder that holds every school form I have signed for 10 years. And the record that keeps a child safe when stories bend. Late summer. Ava texts coffee. Alone. She arrives without props. I left Trent. She says, I'm sorry. I want to be in Lily's life as a birth mother. Not a rival. I don't promise. I ask about therapy. Rules. She says yes to both. I take it to Maya. We map a narrow open adoption plan under Texas law. I remain legal parent. Supervised visits with therapist. Guided expansion. No filming. No brand mentions. No public reunification claims. Everything in writing. Notarized. The therapist builds a calendar. Approves in a letter. We sign at a small notary office. No audience. Working peace. Trent's board issues a temporary suspension, pending review. The church reads its new guidelines. The HOA confirms the interim role. I send my parents a neutral update supervised visits resume in November. 1 hour twice a month. No. Content props. No talk of moving homes. Life shifts to rhythm. I take a district health role. Train staff on child privacy and documentation. Pay down the legal loan. Keep the binders current. Lily turns 10. 2 friends. A grocery store cake? A movie at home. She keeps the cat drawing from that first supervised visit. Names settle where they belong. Visits stay quiet. Later we add 15 minutes and 1 park hour with a caseworker. My parents see Lily once. Supervised. And keep it plain. After. Lily asks for tacos. We eat. Talk about school. And the winter parade's marching band. Anger wants to be loud. Documentation wants to be clear. Clear wins. By spring I present on student privacy. My last slide. Calm is a form of power. A nurse says she now knows how to build her own binders. Worth every long night. Our family has a new shape. Ava rents smaller. Post less. Lives more. Trent is outside the circle. My parents learn the line and stay on their side. The room cools 5 degrees. This was never revenge. It's respect. Enforced by facts. Draw the line. Write it down. Defend it. Calmly. You don't need a speech when you have a record. You don't need perfect. Just daily showing up and keeping receipts. If you've been the quiet builder, tell your story. Someone needs your map.